Hey there, Variety here. Welcome to today's video in which I will be doing a level 1 to level 50 minefighter combat guide for Brighter Shores. So the minefighter combat skill is located in the third area, which is the mines, and it is the first premium area in Brighter Shores. Today's video is going to assume that you either have a very limited or no knowledge about combat at all. So in today's video, I'm going to be adding a lot of extra information, such as using range against specific mobs, weaknesses on your weapons, and potions to help you effectively level up. Once we've gone over that stuff, I'll talk about the route that I use to level up, and I'll also talk about why you would want to level up combat skills in the Brighter Shores 3rd region. Okay, so let's get to it. So before we actually get into the how, let's talk about the why. So why do specifically the minefighter in Brighter Shores? So the minefighter is one of 4 combat skills. While similar, are trained kind of differently depending on which area you're in. The minefighter class specifically is used for a couple of quests. The level 61 minefighter is required for the Lost and Found quest, which is used to create your own powerful weapons. So that's why many people stop at level 61 minefighter. When you get minefighter, you also get a bunch of KP points while leveling up, and your gear looks better because when you're wearing higher combat level gear, your gear slowly enhances and changes looks. However, the main reason that you're looking to get from 0 to 50 initially would be to get to level 61 for the Lost and Found quest. Okay, so let's talk about support. So there are a couple of things that I would recommend you knowing about before you start looking to combat. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Hopeport. The reason we're going back to Hopeport right now is because we want to go and have a look at the alchemy store. So the alchemy store is going to have potions inside, and you can put 2 different types of potions on your bar. So when I find the correct bar, that is, here we go. So I have healing pots, which heal me 20% of my HP. And I also have the green potions. So the green potion makes it so my class's effect is stronger. Just keep that in mind until a little bit later in the video and it'll make more sense. Basically, you come in here, you don't need the higher tier ones, just need the low ones. Buy some basic potions and buy these depending on which class you've picked. So I am a guardian, so I am green and I do green damage more often, so I take these on here. So once you've done that, you'll have potions and you'll be ready on the consumable side. It is also possible to take XP pots for when you're doing knowledge points. So for example, down here, you can get XP pots and you can drink them. Specifically I believe it's the circle ones. Yes, it has to be the 2-minute ones. And you can drink it before you use a knowledge point and you get a bit of a boost. Because combat doesn't use really much inventory space, you can hold that potion in your inventory space if that's what you want to do. Next up, let's go and talk about preparing your weapons. So let's talk about your biggest priority in combat, and that would be your weaponry. So depending on how far you are in the game, you may or may not have weapons already set up. So the way the weapons work in Brighter Shores is that if you get a weapon via craft, or sometimes when they drop, they'll be untuned. What that means is that they're not set to any zone. So let's say I get a piece of gear in the 4th zone over here and it says untuned. Whichever obelisk I go to, it becomes tuned to that area. So the area 3 obelisk is right here. So I'll zoom out a little bit. It's about in the middle of the map. So this is the entrance over here, all the way over to here. So what you do is you come up to the obelisk and you set them to area 3. Keep in mind, once you set them to area 3, you can't set them anywhere else. Okay, it appears that I messed up and didn't bring the green weapon, but it should suffice all the same. Okay. So now these weapons, as you can see, they're level 0, which means you can equip them at level 0. Not having to come in here and punch mobs is actually a huge help. So if you get low level equipment, saying, I don't know, level 0 to level 10, and they're untuned, open up your quartermaster, just store them in here, down the bottom, And then when you get here, just use it on the obelisk so you actually have a bit of gear to start with. So while we're talking about gear, I want to go a little bit more in depth about levels, strengths, and weaknesses. Okay, so let's talk about the levels, weaks, and strengths. So I do apologize, this was supposed to be a staff, but it'll be close enough. So I've got 3 weapons here. They're all level 0. This one's a little bit different, but they're all level 0 and they're different colors. So let's look at their strength. So this one here, it has 16 strength and it has a 46% chance of doing cryo damage. It's melee and it's a 2-hander. So keep this in mind, the 46% chance. So this one here, this one does 33 damage because it's a blue. It has a 76% chance of doing arborane damage. The reason it's more likely for it to do this damage is because that's my class. So when you see people running around, you see a blue symbol above their head, it means blue on their weapon is more likely to proc. If you see a yellow symbol above their head, yellow is more likely to proc. It's based upon you class you pick. See this guy here with the blue above his head? If he wore this blue weapon, it would give him like an extra 30%. So this would actually be like 76% chance. So when you're in combat, ideally you want to be using the weapon with your weakness. Now it doesn't super matter the first 20 levels. It really doesn't. But as you get further and further, having the weakness of the enemy and it being strong for your class really accelerates you. So let's quickly relook at them. So 16 damage or 16 strength, 33 strength, 50 strength. And they're all level 0. That's the kind of strength difference between the tiers. So you want to try to make sure that you have a strong tiered weapon. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the monsters and we'll talk about the weaknesses and how you can check them. So we're now going to talk about how you can find out a monster's strengths and weaknesses. So there are 2 main ways. You can fight the mob, and then after you've fought it, you can go into here, scroll down and click on it. So after you've successfully fought it, this information will be stored. And even when they level up, so if it's a level 0 mob and then comes back at level 31, level 60, level 90, it's always got the same strengths and weaknesses. So once you've killed them all once, you've got basically an encyclopedia of information on every mob in the area. So I'd strongly recommend that when you get probably similar level or maybe plus 2 or 3 levels over them, go and try to kill it so you can see what the weaknesses are. The other way is you can click attack and you can see. So over here, you can see my faction, my equipment, which means I'm plus, this is good. I'm vulnerable to ice. He attacks with ice and he's immune to ice. So the worst thing right now is that he does my weakness, so he's going to do more damage to me. And I don't do extra damage to him. So I'm going to be using a green weapons, as you can see here, and he's not weak to green. He's weak to skull. So fighting this would actually be kind of bad because he has my weakness, but I don't have his. So this is where you would change your weapon to something else. Now, just to be clear, I would say the first 20 levels, it doesn't really matter what weapon you use. You just kind of use the best weapon you've got, right? The highest color, the highest level, up to level 20, it really doesn't matter. If you don't have a good weapon, just fight a mob that's a little bit weaker than you. Generally, people are fighting mobs somewhere between, 5 and 10 levels weaker than them because they don't have an updated weapon. I had crafting, so I was able to craft, best in slot weapons all the way up, and I was able to crush it. So what you're going to do is you're going to come in here and you're going to start from here and go through all these level 0s, and you're going to, as you explore the zone, kill them. And then slowly level your way up to level 20. You're probably going to finish up with the goblins over here, assuming they don't have your immunity, and go down to the floor tentacle, okay? So you can fight pretty much anything, just get your gear and level your way up to 18 on whatever feels good for you. Okay, so let's jump to the tentacle. So here we are at the tentacles. Quite frankly, the most annoying mob in the game as a bonesmither because they're just constantly on you. However, for combat, they're actually really good. For that reason, is because people use a bow to do damage before a mob can damage you back. That way you can fight slightly higher level mobs and get more XP. The thing with tentacles though is that they can't move. So what you do is you right click them. I can go past action, but you would do them at level 4. Is that you can click them, attack them, pull out your bow. As you can see, it can't do any damage to you. Obviously, I did more damage because I'm a higher level, but now his HP has been weakened quite a bit, and now I can pull out my melee weapon and beat him quite easily. That's why the tentacles are really good in the minefighter game. They allow you to fight over-leveled monsters without having to, stress out about it doing too much damage to you. So let's swap down to a weaker weapon and try it again with a slightly weaker weapon. Okay, the crossbow had less ammo because it wasn't so good. And there you go. That's generally how it's going to work. So when you can fight the tentacles, try to fight the tentacles when you're slightly under-leveled because you're able to use up the bow to make the difference. Keep in mind, if you are using a green weapon against an enemy that has a green weakness, remember to use this. Or if you have different classes, so if you're the blue class, use the blue one. And if you're the yellow class, make sure you use the yellow one on mobs over-leveled. So what I did is I stayed at the tentacles for quite a while, and I moved from the tentacles to the next strongest mob for me. So I'll show you where I personally went. Just keep in mind that the monster that you go to next is based upon whichever one is weak to you. So I leveled from level 1 to level 20 on random things as I was kind of getting all the weaknesses of the mobs. Once I was about level 20, I was fighting the tentacles for a while. And then after the tentacles, I come to the skeletons. The reason I come to the skeletons is, let me find them on my list. They're level 22, and their weakness is green. Now, because my class is green, I have a whopping 80% chance of hitting with green. And then I can enhance that by using the green potion. When I come in here, I had a green bow and a green weapon, a melee weapon, and I obliterated these skeletons. It made my leveling very, very, very fast. I'll show you what I mean when I come in here. So let's attack one. It's an easy battle because I'm over-leveled, but that's okay. It also helps that they're auto-aggro. See how I'm hitting him green so many times? That's because that's my class. I'm green. That's why you want to go to a mob that's weak against your type, because you hit them way more often. And look at that. I got a rare purple staff. Nice. So let's talk about the legendary. So the legendary down here is obviously stronger. And I moved to from the skeletons up to the mutant cockroaches. I believe it was the cockroaches, or it was like somewhere around here. There was a mob that was weak to... Yes, it was the cockroaches. So they're a little bit difficult, but because I had a legendary and I had a fire weakness, I went up there and fought them. Now, I should have stomped them because I had a legendary and I had their weakness, but I only had a 30% chance to activate them. So it wasn't as powerful as one might think, simply because it wasn't my class, because it wasn't 80% chance. So it was kind of difficult. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the last mob that I killed. So the last mob I was fighting at about level 50 was the stone worms. These were very powerful. They do insanely powerful attacks. But if you have the right weakness on them, you can kill them relatively simply. It's the same with all the other monsters though. You want to make sure that you have their weakness. So I'm going to bow attack, as you should, with its weakness. I didn't do much damage. I'm going to drink my pot and pull out my mouth. And I should do a lot of damage here. So as you saw, I won pretty easily there. Though there are many times when they'll hit you like 30, 30, 30, 30, 40. And they can KO you pretty easily. But when you're up against a tough mob, you definitely want to bring a potion that heals you, bring a potion that strengthens you, and you want to use a bow. Generally, I prefer to use a bow that attacks faster, so you can get more bolts off and push them back as they're running towards you. But unfortunately, all I have right now is the two-hander. Okay, so I think that covers everything you need to know for the level 1 to level 50 minefighter. I do apologize that I wasn't able to go through a route for each class, but it would have made this video like 20 plus minutes if I went through every monster for every person's weakness. Just remember that you can easily go through here, see which one is vulnerable to your weapon and to your class, and then go after them. and you'll be able to kill them much more efficiently than you're able to kill the other mobs. If you have any questions, please do let me know below. Until next time.